Women Against Abuse is celebrating 50 years of service with Philly's best women chef competition, Dish It Up. It's happening on Thursday, June 11th at the Crystal Tea Room in Center City. This year, step into a groovy 1970s-inspired night featuring delicious bites from top local chefs, an open bar, and the chance to connect with hundreds of changemakers. Best of all, proceeds support survivors of domestic violence. Get your tickets at womenagainst.abuse.org. Rocky Balboa is legitimately everywhere in this city. The likeness and image of the fictional character portrayed by actor Sylvester Stallone is slapped on posters, t-shirts, and mugs. Plus, there's multiple statues displayed in public spaces. Paul Farber, director and co-founder of Monument Lab, is opening Rising Up, Rocky and the Making of Monuments, a new exhibit exploring why people are so fixated on Rocky and what his lore says about how we think of monuments. It's Thursday, April 23rd. I'm Trinina Marie, and we explore the power of Rocky. It's the final 2 days of our spring campaign, and we've seen support from so many of our listeners. Thank you. You've heard us pitching CityCast Philly Neighbors all week because we really do think this is an amazing program and that you'll gain something from it, in addition to supporting the daily show. And don't take our word for it. One of the best parts of the membership campaigns is hearing from people who sign up to join. We love reading your stories and reasons for joining the community, such as Michael K., who said, "I listen to the show and I love being a part of the community." See? And Sharita P. said, "I love the information that's going on. As an entrepreneur in Reading Terminal Market, I get so many people asking what and where to go in the city. So I share. Love music and the arts. Helpful to know what's happening." Michael, Sharita, we agree with you. We're so glad you value this work that we do here on the podcast and in the newsletter, and we appreciate your support. You can join Michael and Sharita and become a CityCast Philly neighbor today for just $10 a month by going to membership.citycast.fm/Philly. Thank you. Before we get deep into this conversation about the impact of Rocky and what he means to the city, you are an acclaimed podcast host with this awesome podcast, The Statue from NPR WHYY. Now you've got this new exhibit at the Philadelphia Art Museum. Paul, why are you obsessed with Rocky?
Actually, I'm fascinated by the Rocky statue, but even more so by the people who make their pilgrimage to the statue and to the steps. Approximately 4 million people go every year. That's more than double that go to the Liberty Bell. That's Statue of Liberty numbers. And I'm really interested in how the most famous Philadelphian who never lived has become a fixture of our civic landscape, and what it means for people to go to that site, or now the numerous sites, but also what does it mean to understand who is outside of that spotlight. And it's that dynamic between who we remember and who we haven't always given that same attention and focus to, that has really become a passion project of mine.
People are so, like I said, so immersed in Rocky lore. I've seen a bachelor party all dress up in the gray sweats like Rocky.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I've spent years talking to people in the line, and I've met people from every neighborhood in Philadelphia, from numerous continents. I've called Rocky statue and steps, like, this is a site of pilgrimage. It's the patron saint of the underdog. So you also have people who are going because this is a place of laying down their burdens. Like, they go here when they're seeking medical treatment or healing. They're going there before job interviews. They're going there because they're looking for a place to be seen and recognized. And there is something about the Rocky statue that is different than many of our other statues.
So wait, people go to the Rocky statue for healing?
I have met people over and again for the podcast, The Statue with WHYY. Our first episode, we talked to a man who had fled the Taliban in Afghanistan, and he chose Philadelphia in part because of Rocky. And then he was here seeking treatment for his daughter at Children's Hospital, and he would go to the Rocky statue every day as a moment of meditation and reflection.
We have statues of uh, other boxers, other sports heroes at the sports complex, for example. How come people don't make a pilgrimage down there?
Yeah, I think people are making their pilgrimages to the sports complex to go see the Eagles, the Sixers, the Phillies, the Flyers. When you're at the art museum, especially when you're outside of the art museum, you have this vantage on the city that is renowned and profound. And I think, we're at a moment where the Joe Frazier statue will be coming here to the art museum steps as a really important moment. And it's twofold. It's both about the fact that Joe Frazier ran up the steps and punched raw meat before Rocky. In fact, you would not have a Rocky Balboa without Joe Frazier. And because this is the people's pedestal, and I think it's an important acknowledgement to kind of lift up Joe Frazier's story. This city has hundreds, if not thousands, of monuments. Each of them tell their own story, but together they actually tell us about who we value, where we do that valuing, and how we understand that as evolving. And that's true from the top of City Hall to the middle of Fairmount Park to each of our neighborhood parks. And, something that I have found through the work on the podcast and again in the show, I think the Rocky statue is extraordinary and ordinary. It's extraordinary because millions of people go there every year, including those who see it as an altar for difficulty, for challenge. It's like a way to give honor to the limits that we face. That's extraordinary. It's not the norm for most statues. What's ordinary is that a Hollywood boxer, a archetype of a white boxer in a city of real life black boxers, has been elevated to the limelight. That's actually very typical of the monument landscape, which is full of inequities in terms of not just the story of boxing, but more broadly. That's actually ordinary. And so I want to hold both of those things together. What's happening here that is profound, but also what is happening here that is missing in terms of our understanding of how we commemorate and how we advance the work of remembering.
So much of Rocky is linked to the identity of Philadelphia. And as you mentioned, folks individually that you've learned use this statue for several different reasons. And it's emotional as well. But are there other cities in America that have anything comparable to this Rocky phenomenon?
Well, I'm biased, so I'm Philly all day, every day.
Right, me too.
But I've tried. I've tried to look, and I mean, I think there is something singular that's happening here that is a part of not any one origin, but numerous ones. So, like, boxers have been represented in monuments for thousands of years. In fact, we have several objects in Rising Up from several millennia ago that show you the same poses that you see in the Rocky statue.
Oh, wow.
But here in Philly, we have the Art Museum steps, the People's Pedestal, where we go protest, celebrate, mourn, gather. Like, there's something about the steps. You don't have Rocky without the steps, and you don't have all of this without the people. And then at the same time, what I see across perhaps maybe not even other American cities only, like I'm thinking globally. New York, of course, has Lady Liberty. Florence has David. Philly has Rocky. And it's that level of symbol. I have been all around the world giving talks about monuments in South Africa, in Germany. And if I tell someone I'm from Philly, they'll raise their arms in the air and say Rocky. And I think that is in of itself profound. When you take that conversation further, you understand how people have a deep bond with the idea of Philadelphia, if not the place. I think, like an example, Abbott Elementary is a love letter to Philly. And every time I watch an episode, when you see Action News shouted out, or,
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is on it, or, Water Ice, like you understand that, like, you're like, it's for us. But then when you realize they're winning Emmys, the more we are ourselves in Philly, the more we actually speak to the world. And that doesn't just mean all the good stuff about us. It means all of our history, the complex, the complicated. And so I think actually all of that is at play when we're thinking about Rocky, when we're thinking about Joe Frazier, when we think about our monuments. The more that we tell our full true selves, the better we are to one another, but also the more that we shine outward to the world.
All right, let's keep talking about this after the break. Everything feels more expensive right now, but one of Philly's best resources is still completely free. With a free Library of Philadelphia card, you get access to thousands of programs, events, and digital resources for all ages. Whether you're looking for something fun to do, hoping to build new skills, or simply want a welcoming place to spend time, the library is here for you. Your library card also opens the doors to a vast digital collection, including ebooks, audiobooks, learning languages, genealogy, and news. At its core, the library is where access meets opportunity. It's a place to explore new interests, gain practical skills, and connect with your community. And don't worry, they don't have those fees if you return your materials late. And anyone who lives, studies, or works in Philadelphia, or is a Pennsylvania resident, can get a library card. Sign up today, freelibrary.org/card, and see what's waiting for you. Life gets busy, and it's easy for fitness and well-being to just fall off. But City Fitness feels like a place that actually fits into your routine instead of disrupting it. City Fitness isn't just a gym. It's where people in Philly build a routine and feel a part of a real community. Classes are a big part of it. There's high-energy stuff like HIIT, strength, cardio, plus slower formats like yoga and Pilates, cycling classes too. So you can mix it up depending on your mood. And if you want more structure, they also have personal training, real coaches who build a plan around your goals. You can try it with a complimentary day pass. So no pressure, just go hang with the community and see if it fits your life. They've got multiple locations around the city: Fairmount, Fishtown, Passyunk, No Libs, and others. So there's probably one near you. Go to cityfitness.com, grab a complimentary day pass, and meet some people and see if it fits your routine and goals. Hey, it's Trinae, host of CityCast Philly. I want to tell you about something we just added for CityCast Philly neighbors that I'm genuinely excited about. Every Friday after the regular episode wraps, neighbors get access to an exclusive bonus segment in a special members-only ad-free feed. And I'm not talking about filler content. I'm talking about the stuff I actually want to say, but I don't always have the room to fit it in the regular show. Like, should bars really stay open till 4 a.m.? I mean, come on, like, Wawas are disappearing. Where's everyone gonna eat? And how are they gonna get home? This is for the listeners who really want to dig deeper into the city with me and with the rest of the CityCast Philly team. If that's you, become a CityCast Philly neighbor right now. You'll get the Friday bonus segment plus ad-free listening, invites to member-only events, a weekly preview of the best things happening around the city, and more. It's just $10 a month and $100 a year, and it goes directly to supporting the show and the team of locals who make it happen every day. You can read more about this and become a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Philly. That's membership.citycast.fm/Philly. And neighbors, I'll see you in the bonus segment. dropping back in just to remind you that we are in the final days of our spring membership campaign. And if you feel like, okay, Trey, I've been hearing y'all talk about this all week, well, that's great because we are proud to be member supported and we will shout it from the top of the Art Museum steps. But if you've been on the fence, you're not quite sure, we hope you'll come on board in these last couple of days. And when you do, we have a gift for you. Each time we do these campaigns, we come up with a special offering of some kind to thank our members. And this time it's really special. It's one of those collegiate, kind of like nostalgic pennants. Ours is orange with a cheesesteak, and it says, I live here on purpose. You can post it in the office, post it up in your living room. You know what? Post it up on the porch and let your mail person and the delivery drivers know that you've got some city pride. Together, we are making the city better. You can get the pennant and become one of our CityCast Philly neighbors, supporting the show for $10 a month or $100 a year by going to membership.citycast.fm/Philly. You talked a little bit about what visitors can expect when they go to this new exhibit. They can see like boxers from years ago do the same poses. What else can visitors expect in the Rising Up exhibit?
We're looking at over 150 artworks and artifacts that cover thousands of years of monuments and boxing and art. And, this is a show that borrows from the Metropolitan Museum of Art and a boxing gym in Northeast Philly. We really want to cover the gamut. You'll find different stories of real life boxers like Joe Louis, Jack Johnson, Muhammad Ali, and of course, Joe Frazier. We have a special room focused on Philly, Power and Place that gives love to the Blue Horizon gym as well as to Joe Frazier's gym. We have a really big focus on contemporary art. Artists like Hank Willis Thomas, Carrie Mae Weems, Kara Walker, Jeffrey Gibson, as well as artists from Mural Arts' Restorative Justice Program who are incarcerated at SCI Phoenix. They made work inside of the prison and have reinstalled it here in the galleries. So we are just really covering this. And then the Rocky statue is inside the museum for the first time. I tell people...
Wait, which one though, Paul?
Okay.
The replica or the original one that's at the bottom?
I've had to keep track. So it's the original one that was in Rocky 3. It's in the museum for the first time. But we also have rare artifacts from the sculptor A. Thomas Schomburg, never seen before. Contact sheets of the ways the different arm poses Rocky almost was, but they chose the right one. The maquettes. We have the test footage from the Steadicam, one of the greatest innovations in film history. Before Rocky ran up the steps, it was Garrett Brown's wife, Ellen, who 2 years before ran up steps. So Ellen's going to be here. She's going to be a special guest. We got the footage in there as well. What I tell people about this show, it is for the art lovers. It is for people who love boxing. My job in this show is to bring together us to represent and understand our connected differences and our shared humanity. And I say to people this: we have one of the world's most famous museums here in Philadelphia. It looks like meant to be a Greek temple. Outside of it, on its front steps, has been a statue to one of the world's most famous boxers from a Hollywood story. And for decades, this museum and this boxing statue have been at odds with each other. And my job is to bring them closer to see one another, but more importantly, see the people that move back and forth between them and to understand what it means to truly open up public space and public imagination.
Paul, does this feel like a finally moment for you?
Well, it does in many ways. And also, most of my work, whether it's been in neighborhoods around Philadelphia, City Hall, the National Mall, has been working with incredible artists who bring their work into public spaces that's in conversation with everything around it, from political thought to daily commuters to, all of the things that happen in a city. And so there is something that feels like a chapter is being completed because we're inside the museum, we're pushing the museum, we're collaborating in ways that really will bring together incredible thoughts, but the show is not done until people come in. Like the artworks inspire me, the history is fascinating, but it's going to be the relationships with people. And I just want to encourage people to come on in. We're going to have pay as you wish Fridays every week of the show and trying to be outside as much as we can as well. Because I think to me, that's going to be what keeps this fresh. With monuments, they're never the period at the end of the sentence about history. They're always about continuation. So I think this is going to add layers to the monument landscape, which is always changing.
I want to talk about that idea continuation. So, in 2017, there was national discourse over monuments. And this was following the Unite the Right rallies in Charlottesville, Virginia, protesting the removal of the Confederate General Robert E. Lee's statue. And the question that was floating around in America at the time was, do these statues represent heritage or hate? And several southern states created laws protecting
Mm-hmm.
Confederate monuments, making it really hard to remove them from public spaces. Here in Philly, right, we had a statue commemorating a former Philadelphia mayor, Frank Rizzo, that previously stood outside the Municipal Service Building, and that's across from City Hall. And that was taken down during the racial protests over the killing of George Floyd back in 2020. And just 3 years prior, Philly got its first public statue of a Black person on the apron of City Hall, of Philadelphia civil rights leader, educator, and athlete Octavius V. Catto. Tell me why statues have been so divisive over these last few years.
Yeah. I think if anything, the last several years, it shined a light on something that a lot of people knew for years, for decades, for generations, that our monument landscape reflected inequities in our culture, in our democracy. It did not take until 2017 or 2020 to have the first rebukes of the lost cause Confederate monuments. You can go back to speeches and writings by Frederick Douglass, by W.E.B. Du Bois, a century ago that said this is misrepresenting our history. We have inherited a monument landscape where there are more Robert E. Lees than Ulysses S. Grants, where there are more Jefferson Davises than Frederick Douglasses, and where there are more Confederates in the top 50 of people who have monuments dedicated to them than Black Americans. If you really grasp that, you know that monuments aren't just reflecting our history. They're a mirror to how we carry ourselves today. And so I think what we saw over the last decade is a variety of ways that we're reckoning not just with the statuary and the public symbols that we have inherited, but where we put our values and our visions today. And so I look at how the mantle picked up, you know, of activists, of organizers, and especially of artists over the last decade is picking up the baton from people who kept the memory alive earlier. You don't have an Octavius Catto statue if you don't have his former colleagues, his family, his friends, his students fighting for a century to keep his name renowned. And so when I think about all of that and I think about where the Rocky statue fits in, I actually really look to how people have reacted during the uprisings in 2020. First of all, over 99% of monuments were not taken down during that reckoning. I think we get 99% of our focus on those that got taken down. Most are still living with us. There was someone who put on the Rocky statue a placard that said "No justice, no peace," while there was a die-in on the steps of the art museum, which we feature in this show in Rising Up. And I just wonder, what did that mean? What happened around that statue that is insightful, impactful for us today? So with all that in mind, monuments don't go away because they're constantly reminders for us, not just of what happened in the past. They're actually not often about what happened in the past. They are inflection points, lightning rods, but perhaps meeting places for how we understand our history and how we bring it forward with us.
But what do we say? What do we do when there is a public outcry and a pushing back or a an actual call to remove a statue, and what that means for the community that put the statue up? Let's take it down to South Philly and how South Philly neighbors, how they felt, and the legal battles that happened in regards to the Christopher Columbus statue at Marconi Plaza.
Yeah, I mean there's no one size fits all, but I've seen communities reckon around this country, including on the legacy of Christopher Columbus, including involving Italian American communities to understand how those statues came about, where they came about, when, and it takes deep groundwork. It's the work of diplomacy. I think where I want to make sure that we are recognizing is like the history doesn't happen on the pedestal, it happens between people. And until we really listen to people who have had legacies of harm, injustice, inequity, or lack of spotlight, and really elevate that, we will continue to doom in the same way. But what I hope is that we see monuments as not a zero sum game where there's only certain people and there's only a fixed amount, but instead to understand who have we venerated across generations over and over again across places, and how do we address those gaps, because those gaps are real. For me, I think there are times where like a monument to a person who embodies great legacies of violence doesn't belong in public space. I still want to understand the why and the how to be able to live forward and move forward.
Hmm. We're also in this interesting space nationally and locally when we go to the president's house. Conversations about government censorship and whose
That's right.
history is told and who is doing the storytelling. Monument Lab, you all focus your work on public art and history through a design studio here in the city. And what was interesting for me to go back to the website and understand is that you're charged with advancing justice by reimagining monuments as places for belonging, learning, and healing. How do we actually heal when there's constant fighting?
It's a tall task.
I'm curious, Paul, like in your work so far, and just do you ever feel like you've reached that moment, like finally we got it right? Because that's why I asked you, like with this exhibit and the questions that you're looking at and you're interested in, and the conversations you've had with people literally all around the world. Have you ever gotten to that point when finally we have figured it out?
Well, I really appreciate your question because my brief answer is yes and no. Yes, because I have seen the power of people in places telling the full history and feeling catharsis. But you also see um, the power of what it means to remember in public. That's why I can say yes. Why I can say no is the work is never done. We're always picking up the mantle. Like history's never complete. Democracy is never complete. You must maintain it. You must repair it. And I think one of the challenges that we have is I live with this, and I don't have to put this on everybody, but we grew up with a very linear sense of time. Like the past was behind us, the future is ahead of us, and it lives on a linear timeline. I think about the writer Ralph Ellison in the book Invisible Man, and he says, and I'm paraphrasing, like history does not move with an arrow, it moves like a boomerang. So bring your helmet. We are experiencing that right now. We are experiencing the flashbacks, the backlash, the white lash, so to speak, of these vicious regimes that conjured Jim Crow and American apartheid. And we have the experiences and the technologies passed down to us from multi-generational sources. So look, this work is hard. I feel like it's pushing a boulder up a hill, but you never have to do it alone and you have to find your people. And just to bring it back, like, hey, for all those history buffs out there, the moment you open up your mind and see that there's so much more there, oh my gosh, like you get to meet the most amazing people. You get to hear the most amazing stories, and they speak to not the idea of a finished history, of a completed history frozen in time. It actually tells you how we live with it today.
So many Philadelphians that I spoke to in my lifetime always made sure that I knew that Rocky wasn't real, and I need to look up Joe Frazier. Janae, look up Joe Frazier, and I'm like, okay. And it was this year that Creative Philadelphia had proposed that Philly's adopted son, Joe Frazier, the actual real life boxer, have his statue moved from the sports complex in South Philly to the bottom of the art museum steps along the Parkway. Now, this moves Rocky to the top of the steps, but do you feel like this move, this shift in the monuments is an act of healing?
Yeah. I've heard lots of really important debates about where does Rocky belong and where does Joe Frazier belong. I've been really guided by conversations I've had. I've been very fortunate to have with Judge Jackie Frazier Lyde and her husband Peter Lyde, and other family members in Joe Frazier's family who I think have been carrying with them, if I understand this sense of like they know how important Joe Frazier is to the story of the city. His name is still emblazoned on a gym that, though inactive, is on the National Register of Historic Sites on Smoking Joe Boulevard, off of North Broad Street, right outside. And they're also aware of the fact that he was entangled in the Rocky story. There would be no Rocky without Joe Frazier. And so I think just to echo your story, when Monument Labs started asking people about what is an appropriate monument for the current city of Philadelphia in our kind of public data gathering over a decade ago, one of the first responses that we got in multiples was, where's the statue to Joe Frazier? And that was the
Mm-hmm.
same year that Stephen Lane created a monument to Joe Frazier that was outside of the former Xfinity Live, the sports bar in South Philly. But the point was made, like, what's going on here? How could we not address this? So the work for Monument Lab, the work of the statue, and now of Rising Up, like I've really wanted to make sure that Joe Frazier's story is not just seen next to Rocky's, though there is some fascinating trivia in there. The fact that Joe Frazier's in Rocky 1, the fact that Joe Frazier was supposed to be in Rocky 3, but landed a punch during an audition that kind of tabled the whole idea.
Mm.
Um, but I actually want people to see Joe Frazier as monumental in of himself. And I'll give you a sneak peek because tomorrow night is the opening party, which I hope everybody comes to. And the exhibition opens this weekend. I just was watching a billboard size image of Joe Frazier go up in the galleries. And we have artifacts from the city's archives, from art archives, from our friends up at Joe Hand Promotions who are generationally connected to the Frazier family. And I will tell you, there's a moment in the galleries where in the same in the same view, you can see on one hand the Rocky statue, and you can see a large monumental portrait of Joe Frazier's gym that we commissioned from the artist and photographer Hannah Price. To me, they're two of the most important monuments in the city of Philadelphia. The fact that we have a symbol that is world renowned in Rocky and that the statue is this incredible site of pilgrimage. And can we give some spotlight and love to Joe Frazier, to Philadelphia boxers who for more than a century have made it possible for the Hollywood story to operate? And let's hold both way up. And then my wish for the show is that like the forces and the powers and the coalitions that be, Joe Frazier's gym comes back to life. That the line grows outside of the Joe Frazier statue and that we can continue to really even imagine who's the next Philly boxer who's going to be on the pedestal as well, because we got to make room for generations of more fighters to be seen as our civic heroes.
Paul Farber, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation on CityCast Philly.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so excited to welcome you to Rising Up.
Rising Up Rocky and the Making of Monuments is on display this Saturday, April 25th through August 2nd at the Philadelphia Art Museum. We'll have links in the show notes. What a great episode. I am so excited to walk around this new exhibit at the Art Museum. And, that's why I love making this show. This is a really cool job, honestly. If I could be very frank with you, this is one of the coolest jobs I've ever had because I get to not only just live in the city, I get to talk or I get to question also, some of the most smart, interesting people doing amazing things in the city. I really do mean that from the bottom of my heart. And with your support, when you become a CityCast Philly neighbor, you essentially are supporting us, supporting the work that we're doing. You're making sure I keep telling these stories and I keep having these conversations. If you haven't done this yet, become a member. Become a member right now. Head over to membership.citycast.fm/Philly. Listen, it's been great reading all the comments that have been coming in about why you all are so thankful as well for this podcast. And we can't do it without our members. Also, all week we've been talking about this pennant, right? This orange kind of nostalgic pennant with the cheesesteak on it. And it says, I live here on purpose. But this is more. What we're doing here is getting you connected to the city. You're not just living here. You're living here on purpose. You really are. You're making that decision. And a part of living here is also knowing what's happening, which is what we do, and also being active, being a part of your community. One of those ways that we are a part of our community, we are going to be on Broad Street on Sunday, May 3rd for the annual Broad Street Run. Our team and our amazing group of CityCast Philly neighbors are meeting up to volunteer and give out water to thousands of runners along Broad Street. We want you to join us for this really great volunteering opportunity. Sign up right now. Be a part of this amazing community. We don't want you to feel left out, right? So act now. Head over to membership.citycast.fm/Philly. Listen, I know how it gets. I go, oh, you know what? I'll do that later. It's on my mind. Oh, but I'll get back to it. I'll get back to it. And guess what? I don't. And so I'm reminding you, head over right now to membership.citycast.fm/Philly. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode, please share this with a friend. Also, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support our show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.